Ladies and gentlemen, how are you? Good to be back for day 12 of the Erin Patterson trial. It has been a very busy day. It's been a busy day today. And as you all would have found out very late this afternoon, that a juror was dismissed from the trial. Now, we heard about it this morning, but we had to wait till we could do anything with it. And I wanted to wait until a media organization actually reported on it before I said anything, because I was like, they got way better lawyers than I do. And yes, so we have to be very careful with the way we talk about this. And the same rules apply as they normally do. Please don't make any accusations against this particular juror. Please don't, just say, I don't know, just be understanding that subjudice contempt, identifying a juror, or anything like that still applies, even though this person has, been asked to leave the jury. They are still protected under the act. So we have to be very careful in the way we discuss it. And so all I'm going to say on it is I'm actually going to use what the Herald said, and that that way I know I'm not going to screw up and say the wrong thing. So I'm going to just tell you what the Herald Sun said about it this afternoon. And the Herald Sun says here, one of the 15 jurors in the high-profile Erin Patterson murder trial has been discharged. It can be revealed. Justice Beale told the Supreme Court on Thursday that one of their fellow jurors had been discharged after allegedly discussing the case with family and friends. And Justice Beale is quoted, and it says here, I discharged the juror because, as I explained to them, I received information that they had been discussing the case with family and friends contrary to my instructions. And yes, so hold on, let me get rid of that. So yes, Justice Beale did actually tell everyone probably at the start of the trial, gave them probably a bunch of things that they're not supposed to do, like in every trial. And I'm guessing one of those things was keep your information to yourself. Don't be discussing this outside of the jury, outside of the trial. Oh, I just gave it to you. You don't have to do anything. You can just look pretty. You can just look pretty like you already are. You know, already pretty. Now you can look more pretty. There you go. You don't have to actually do anything. It's fine. All right. So they continue here, and I'll bring the rest of it to you. He says, and this is Justice Beale, I was of the view that there was a reasonable possibility that the information I received was credible. I want to remind you of my directions that you should only discuss the case with your fellow jurors in the privacy of the jury room. He also said, I have not made a positive finding that the juror had discussed the case with family and friends, but neither could I dismiss the possibility that he had. So there you go. And they say, yeah. So on the first day of the trial, the day before opening day, when the jury was impaneled, Justice Beale told the jurors they were permitted to tell their families that they had been selected to sit on the jury. And he is quoted here as saying, you can tell them that the trial is expected to take about 6 weeks. You can tell them about the sitting times, but don't get into a discussion about the case. Shut down any attempt to draw you into conversation about it. All right, please. He then follows here. He told the jurors on Thursday that they were not to contact the discharged juror and that the discharged juror was not to contact them. He said to the jury today, on that unhappy note, we're ready to resume the trial. And they're saying here the trial will now proceed with 14 jurors and 2 will be balloted off at the end. And as I was going through the judge's instructions today, because I was researching like what did he tell them at the start and things like that. So I was looking through all his address to the jury, which unfortunately I can't report. It's something we're not allowed to report on. It's protected. It's called like similar to pretrial. But I can tell you that one of the things that came up, and I had missed this, is and they explain it in this article. So they got 14 jurors now, but they'll only take 12 into the verdict. So the when it's over and we get closing submissions and they go off to make their decision, it'll only be 12, and that happens in a lot of different court cases. But this bit I missed, and somehow I missed this going through all the paperwork that we've had. The final 12 jurors will be sequestered once they begin deliberations. So this jury is actually going to be sequestered. They weren't sequestered through the trial. I'm pretty sure they go home every day. But when they go into verdict, so deliberations, they will be sequestered. They will be put up somewhere. They will come to court every day. They will do their deliberations, whatever they do in the jury room, come to their decision. And if they don't come to their decision during the day, they'll go back to the hotel room and then they'll do it all over again. I think the only day that juries in Australia don't sit is on a Sunday. So Monday to Saturday, they deliberate. So we'll have to see what happens when we go into that part of the trial. I don't know when that'll be. A couple of weeks from now, I don't know. We're in week 3 now. We'll see. Let's see. Renee says, I'm baking brownies while listening to Ping. Please send all bakery goods to 12 Ping Street. Regarding Ping, send all trays of brownies to Ping. Naughty peeps, yeah, naughty. But yeah. Heather says, how embarrassing. Well, look, these things happen. They're not supposed to happen, but they happen. Trials off. That's why we carry alternates, right? That's why we always have a few alternate jurors, because things happen, things come up, people get sick, people get called into work, jurors sometimes get kicked out. That's why we have extra people. So that's why we take extra jurors in the impanelment phase. So there we go. That is your update. No, yeah, you don't have to do anything. I just did it so you can look scary. You can be scary to people. Our chat doesn't need a lot of moderation anyway. I don't think I've ever had to moderate much in the chat anyway. But so that's all I'm going to say on it, because otherwise I don't want to get, after Justice Beale having to do that today, I don't want him getting angry at me. I'm good. I don't want to get called into his chambers on Monday morning and him be like, "Hey, you gave away all the information that we told you not to talk about." And I'd be like, "Wait, what? I didn't do that." And they'd be like, "We have a copy of your live stream right here." And I'd be like, "Oh, yeah, I did do that." And then I'd probably have to go to jail or something. I, I don't want to go to jail. All right. So today was a bit of a split day. We sort of had all that kind of stuff happen today, and we sort of had a late start to everything in the end. So we heard from a couple of different people, but it's the... You sent an email? Okay. I mean, you don't have to do anything, but I can't do it right now because I'm not in the screen, but I can do it later. Sean says, My message said 8:15 start. Yeah, well, I started early. Is that all right? I thought people would like to not wait around. I thought if I could do the show now, people would want me to do the show now. So sometimes we start a little early, all right? You know, I can't do it from here, unfortunately, my friend. I can ban you. I could do that. I can time you out. I could do that. But for some reason, it doesn't give me the option of the other two. I have to go into the other page to do it. But that's okay. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to check the messages. You don't have to do anything. I just did it so it looked like there was. You ban me. I just did it so that there was someone else in the chat that didn't look like a normal user. You don't have to do anything. Sean's here too, so it's okay. It's all good. You know how many people we've ever banned from this channel? I think it's like 2 people in 2 years, so it's fine. And I can remove messages from here. See, I'll do it. Watch. Yuda, watch this. Oh, she did it? Here, look, I can do it too. Oh, see what happened? See, I can delete messages too. Oh, Kathy's here too. See, you don't have to do anything. It's fine. I don't expect you to do anything. Joe says, I was watching random lives. Okay. Diddy? P. Diddy? All right. I want to take you to Dmitry Geros Damalos. And what is that? And I'll tell you in a second. He is a forensic. He works for. Actually, I'll tell you where he works. That'll be better. We should do that before we get into it. But he is a forensic version of someone we've already heard from. And so we've heard from these type of medical personnel before. Okay, I'm in the wrong part of my notes. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Don't run away. All right. I'm just happy because we've only got a half day tomorrow, and then I'm on holidays for 3 days. Nope, that's not it. This testimonial evidence was quite long, so we had I got to get right up to the top, even though I want to talk to you about the stuff that happened in the later bit, because I want to tell you what he does for a living. Nope, that's not it. Nope, that's not it. All right. All right. So they ask so I took you through this last night. I was like, what do they do every time a witness comes up to give evidence? And they sort of run through the same thing every night. Like I explained to you last night, they want to make sure they got the right guy. They're like, well, it's not the guy that's an airplane pilot. We want the guy that's a forensic, you know, it's to make sure they got the right person. So who is Dimitri? Wow, he's not just Dimitri. He's the head of forensic sciences and chief toxicologist at the Victorian Institute of Forensic Medicine. That's a very long title, but he's a very important person. And in these questions, sort of like they start up, they ask him, can you tell the jury what is toxicology? And I was like, wow, I sort of know what they do, but I don't know if I've ever heard an explanation for it. So I'll tell you what it is. And his reply is forensic toxicology is essentially looking for drugs and poisons and other chemicals in a range of biological specimens. So, a forensic toxicologist will develop techniques to be able to measure these compounds or these poisons and then identify and report if they're present in a particular sample. So, they're looking for these type of poisons. And he goes on to talk about it's not just poisons. Hold on. Sorry, I don't want to cough into the mic. I don't think people would enjoy that. See? Sorry. He goes on to talk about how it's not just looking for things like poisons or toxins as such. He says a lot of the work they normally do is things you would come across every day in police investigations, people who die. And he says it's like pharmaceutical medications, illicit drugs, things like that. Not really Amanita phalloides poison. He's like, that's not something they do all that often. It's pretty uncommon. And he says most of their stuff is looking for drugs and alcohol and uh, medications and things like that. So, hey, gossip, rumor, and innuendo. Good to see you. Happy to have you. We're living for this case in the US. I'm happy to bring it to you. Good work. Thank you. Hey, thanks for the super chat. I appreciate it. Thanks for the awesome coverage. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you. So that's what he sort of says. He sort of says that's not really what they do. And I'll read you the thing here. And they say, is there a standard procedure for how a forensic toxicological tox toxicological no, that's not it. Toxicological, there you go, analysis would run? And he says that will depend on the drug or the poison or the chemical that is of interest. So some drugs or pharmaceuticals will be amendable to certain techniques. And they say there are a range of analytical techniques that are available to forensic toxicologists for the detection of a whole range of substances. And they range from alcohol to drugs of abuse to prescription drugs to new synthetic drugs as well as poisons. So he kind of explains the raft of things that they're looking for in some of their analysis that they do: synthetic drugs, poison, all the drugs that we all know of that you get off the street, drugs of dependence, drugs of abuse. That's sort of what they look for. And they go on to say here, are there any drugs or substances that you always test for? And he says, typically, it will depend on the investigation, but in the most routine investigations that we perform for a coroner and for our pathologists, there is a standard panel of drugs that we look for, and they include drugs that can really contribute or can actually cause the death of an individual. They range from some of the substances I've mentioned, which includes alcohol, stimulants, and drugs of abuse. And he mentions drugs like methamphetamine, cocaine, and cannabis, as well as a whole range of prescription drugs. He says also other drugs that are not scheduled in Australia, so drugs that are brought in from overseas, as well as a range of poisons that we come across from time to time. So it will depend on the case circumstances. It will depend on the coroner and the pathologist also making those requests. And they say here, what are the particular toxins that are produced by death cap mushrooms? And he says, death cap mushrooms, he says, depending on the species, but primarily the most common toxins are alpha amanitin and beta amanitin. And to a lesser extent, there is another product called gamma amanitin, but the laboratory has essentially developed a technique that is used for the detection of alpha and beta amanitin. So these are the two toxins within the mushroom. This is what kills you. It's this particular toxin. It's not like the mushroom itself, it's the poison or the toxin inside. And these are the two that the way he explained it to the jury is alpha is in a larger amount in the mushroom, beta is in a slightly smaller amount in the mushroom, but gamma is in a very small amount in the mushroom that it makes it very difficult for them to test for, and it makes it not worth it for them because it's in a very tiny amount in the in the combined chemical. Like it's not enough for them to really go look for it, so they don't really test for the gamma, but the alpha and the beta they do because they're in a higher amount in the mushrooms, so or wherever they come from. And they say, I want to ask you about the toxicological profile of death cap mushrooms, Amanita phalloides. what effect do alpha amanitin and beta amanitin and gamma amanitin have on humans? And he says they are quite toxic in the terms of their potency. They can lead to someone experiencing symptoms of diarrhea, vomiting, and feeling really unwell, and they progressively get worse if the toxins are not removed. They progress to tissue necrosis, organ failure, and obviously lead to death if not treated appropriately or supportively in a hospital. And they say, so alpha, beta, and gamma amanitin, do they have any particular characteristics that can facilitate or contribute to the level of toxicity? And he says they essentially cell replication. They lead to the tissue necrosis, and they really do affect the function of the liver and kidney, which is essential for normal physiological function. And they say they ask him sort of about the thermostability of amatoxins, and he says these are rather large molecules. They're rather large compounds, so we know through scientific investigations that they are quite stable, both when these compounds are frozen, but also when they are subjected to heat. In the process of when these are prepared for a meal, they'll be subject to some sort of heat. They're quite stable in terms of their structure remains intact even in high temperature environments. What the fuck happened? I'm gonna have to mute that again. What's going on with our. Hold on, guys. Hold on. Sorry. My cats, every time I get on the stream, they're like, hey, let's go break dad's computer. Because that's like the funnest thing and make dad swear all over the live stream. Every time they knock my camera out. It's so annoying. When they're not here, camera works fine. When they come in, they pull the cord out. Every time. So I hope you heard all that, but I'll say it again. They say, because I'll have to edit out the swearing. They say, what can you say about the thermostability of amatoxins? And they say the stability of these rather large molecules. They say they're rather large compounds, and they say we know through Muffin, I swear. And he says we know through scientific investigations that they are quite stable, both when these compounds are frozen, but also when they are subjected to heat. And he says in the process of when these are prepared for a meal, they'll be subject to some sort of heat, and they're quite stable in terms of their structure. Their structure remains intact even in high temperature environments. So he's saying that basically when you freeze it or you cook with it, even with heat, it's going to stay quite, well, it's going to continue to be poisonous. It's not like some other mushrooms where you can cook it and then eat it. There's some other mushrooms where uh, they are somewhat poisonous, or yeah, they can make you sick. But if you cook them, it sort of kills off any of the effects from it. But Amanita phalloides don't react that way with heat or freezing. They stay intact, like the poison does not degrade with heat or freezing. So I'm not gonna beat the cat. I just get annoyed with them when they come in here. Oi, what are you guys doing? Rory, why are you chasing him around? Go play Chasey in the other room. Go on. Go be with mum. Go play with mum. Nope, they want to be in dad's computer room. Why they want to be in here, I don't know. If you guys pull the cable out again, we're going to rehome you. We're going to rehome you to someone else who doesn't have a computer. Um, they're saying here, can you say about their water solubility or how they dissolve in water? He says that these toxins are quite water soluble compounds, but that depends on the preparation that they're being prepared into. He's not 100% sure because it depends on like what you're doing with them, and but he says for the most part they do they are soluble into water. And they say, yeah, I'm gonna move past that because there's nothing really here. They sort of ask about acidic conditions, but he says he's not sure. He can't remember what they might do in a acidic environment. He says he's not 100% sure what that would do. Okay, let's go further down. Yeah. So someone asked last night about lethality, and when this came up today, I was like, now I can tell you about it. This is so all the questioning so far has been from Miss Lenthal. Miss Lenthal. We've heard from her many times already during the trial. And they say, according to the scientific literature, what is the estimated lethal dose? I can't talk tonight. Of amatoxins for humans. And he says that will depend on the amount, but it is estimated to be zero point 0.1 milligram to a kilogram. So he says very small. They say, just to complete the mathematics there, they say, what would it be for a 70-kilo adult? And he says it's estimated for a 70-kilo adult, it's about 50 grams or about 3 tablespoons. If we can put it in common terms, but it will depend on how much of the toxins are there, the species of the particular plant, these estimates are derived from studies that have been conducted in mice, rats, and dogs. They're not studies that have been directly derived from humans for obvious reasons. They are very toxic compounds. So they're saying they don't test on humans because it might kill them because they're very toxic. So they don't do that. Not lentil, lenthal. So her name is spelled Lenthal. Lenthal. I can show you a photo of her later. Hey guys, out, out of the computer room, you bloody animals. And they say here, what amount of amatoxins again? Oh yeah, what amount of amatoxins again, based on the scientific literature, are found in death cap mushroom? Here we go. They say only small amounts of the alpha and beta, and even less of the gamma, are found in death cap mushrooms, roughly equating to about 8%, 5%, and maybe less than 2% for the gamma. So less than 10% of 100 grams of a mushroom. And he says, yeah, less than 10% of the mushroom actually contains the alpha and the beta aminidin. And they say, so they are not high in proportion to the weight of the mushroom itself. There you go. So only a very small part of the mushroom, based on weight and size, actually has the toxins inside of it. And they say, what sort of symptoms or presentation would you expect for a person who had ingested amatoxins? And he says, as I mentioned before, the symptoms get progressively worse. In the outset, it may be related to diarrhea, vomiting, and generally feeling unwell, but then progressively getting worse if those persons are not treated after they have had the amatoxin. So there you go. I thought since people were asking about it last night, they'd want that little bit of evidence from Dimitri today. Hold on. Yeah, that's right. Kathy says, when my kids were little, they would always act up while I was on the phone. Same with Ping's cats. It's so funny. They were sleeping like 5 minutes ago before I hopped on. They were like curled up in a bowl. And as soon as I hit the live show, they're like, hey, let's run around dad's computer room and tear out all the cords and wrestle and make loud noises. They're very naughty sometimes, very naughty. Let's say, Hugney said, so there would need to be a decent amount of mushrooms to get enough poison to be lethal in a human being. Um, they didn't actually say that, but I mean, you might be able to infer that from the evidence. I'm not sure, but it's interesting that it's only like a very small percent of the mushroom actually, is the toxin. And then he says you need about 50 grams of the toxin to potentially be killed. Okay. One of the things they talk about here is, can alpha, beta, or gamma aminitin be detected in the body? And he says, yes, it can. Primarily the alpha and the beta. They tend to be in higher concentrations than the gamma aminitin. So there are numerous reports in literature of the detection of alpha and beta aminitin in the biological samples from people who have ingested these mushrooms. And they say, can you say how long they could be detected for in example, blood? And they say, they have what we understand to be a very short half life, which means they don't persist in the body for a long time, and therefore they are rapidly cleared with usually within a day from the blood, but may remain in urine for some days. The detection of these compounds, I must say, in blood or other similar biological matrices is challenging, but the concentrations in solid tissues, for example, like liver or in urine, are generally higher and therefore easier to detect in those tissues. So he's saying in about a day after you eat these mushrooms, the body's able to clear it from the system through the like in the blood. But some parts of the body, like your kidneys, probably your urine, inside, if they cut your liver out and tested it, they would still be detectable. But in a blood test, maybe not, because it gets cleared out from the body so quickly. So there you go. Heather says 50 grams is quite a bit considering how light they are. Maybe I don't think his evidence is finished. So I wonder if they'll get deeper into how many you would need, how many grams of mushroom. He sort of says they don't really know because one mushroom could be really potent, another one could have none. Like it's sort of like there's no like average. It's sort of like depending on growing conditions and what time of year and where they come from. It's sort of like it's variable of how much toxin they have. It's not like every mushroom has the same amount of toxins in it. So I wonder if that's why they don't give us a like example in the evidence. And they say, what method of analysis is used to detect aminitins in human samples, so blood, urine, etc.? And they say, for the analysis of such complex molecules, specialized chroma- chromatographic techniques are used, and these are analytical techniques that essentially are able to detect and confirm the presence of a particular toxin in the sample. They say it relates to the separation and detection of compounds. He says what we do is combine this with another scientific technique called mass spectrometry, and this is essentially provides for us what we want, for a better word, a fingerprint of the drug to confirm it's present in the biological sample. They say we compare the detection of these toxins with reference materials that we've already have in the lab, and they are reference standards that have been purchased from companies that actually provide pure reference materials. The process by which we compare those and is yeah. So he's saying that in order to be able to compare a sample that you have from, say, someone who ingested a mushroom, they have to have something to compare it to, otherwise they don't know what they're looking for or if they've got the right thing. So they have these reference samples that they're able to compare against and make sure that like it's the same thing. And they go, "Oh, it matches the reference, and the reference has been verified." So, well, our test says, "Well, look, they look the same." Sort of like that. I'm sure it's more complicated, but that is the layman ping version of it for you. So they purchase these samples from companies that have been verified to be the correct thing, and then they use their testing to compare the two, and they make sure that they're the same thing. Um, all right. I want to move a bit further down, otherwise we're just going to talk about scientific method for like an hour, and I don't really want to do that. Okay. Yeah, I'll start with this because this is where I'd like to go with my reporting. They say, turning to this particular case, and they mean the Erin Patterson trial, did you receive a number of biological, that is, human specimens for toxicological analysis in this case? And he says, yes, we did. They said, some of the samples that were received were labeled as anti mortem. Can you explain what that means? And as soon as they brought this up, I was like, I know, I know. I watch true crime. I know what that means. I was like, finally, something I know about. And they say the anti mortem ones are the blood samples, plasma samples, urine samples that were collected whilst that person was still alive. So we refer to those as anti mortem. Once that person has died and a sample has been collected, it is referred to as a post mortem sample. So in true crime, most of the time we're talking about post mortem. A lot of the things we read about or trials or whatever, it's all very post mortem. So after death, because we do a lot of like murder cases or something like that, even though this is a murder trial, but I mean more like someone was, I don't know, killed in a different way with a weapon or something like that. So yeah, so anti-mortem and post-mortem, and there you go. That's the yeah, okay. So Miss Lenthal continues, and she says, in relation to Donald Patterson, you received a number of post-mortem samples. And he says, yes, we did. And they say, what sort of samples did you receive? He says, we received blood sample, hair samples, contents of the stomach slash stomach contents, a small section of liver, and also a vitreous humor, which is the fluid taken from the eye. I don't want anyone taking the fluid from my eye. And they say, you also received some antemortem samples. He says, yes, we received quite a few samples from Don Patterson from both Dandenong Hospital and the Austin. He says they got in excess of 50 samples, but there are 6 that are listed there in the summary page of the toxicological or toxicology report. And he says they range from blood, serum, and urine. And they ask, did you test a number of these for the presence of alpha or beta amanitin? He says, yes, we did. And if I go a little bit further down here, yeah. So they brought up a piece of evidence, an exhibit that they showed the jury. They were showing us too, so we got it on the screen, and it was a table. So just imagine someone was making a document and they made like a table, and it's got various different sections, and it's a look, it goes down about 10. That's basically what we were seeing. And it says here, Table 1, toxicology results for Donald Patterson. And they say, is that correct? He says, yes, that's right. And they say, does this table represent the results of the analysis that you conducted? He says, yes, they do. And they said a couple of the different, sections on the table are analyte, specimen type, and result. They're the ones. And then there's another one called method of analysis. And that's the type of technique that they use to do the test. And if I move a little further down here, okay, they say here, so they say a particular sample was urine AM1. And they say, was that a urine sample taken from Donald Patterson on the 30th of July at 9:01 p.m. at Dandenong Hospital? He says that's correct. And they say, moving through the table contents, we have a number of entries for alpha aminitin and beta aminitin for blood C, serum F, blood B, hair, and a section of liver. And he says yes. And he said the results for those, they're asking him the results. And he says, for a variety of these other specimens we analyzed, there is no alpha and beta aminitin that we could report. So essentially, they are reported as not detected in the blood sample. The antemortem blood sample, the antemortem serum sample, and also the postmortem sample, which is collected days after their presentation to the hospital. They asked, can you explain to the jury why there would be a positive detection for antemortem urine, but not a detection for these other results? So they did detect it, the aminitin, the alpha aminitin, nitin, or whatever it is, and they did detect it in the antemortem urine test, but not in those other ones like the serum, the blood, a couple of the others. There was no positive result, and they asked him why that might be. And he says, so if I take a couple of these specimens at a time, as I mentioned earlier, it's quickly eliminated from blood. They don't persist in the blood for some time. Also, it is essential that a sample be collected close to the time of ingestion. If after 24 hours or 30 hours a blood sample is not available, it is very unlikely that you're going to detect alpha or beta aminitin. And we know that because in our previous work, where we have had a sample that's been collected within 15 hours, we've had both of these toxins detected as positive in a blood sample. But we know that they persist in urine for some time longer, and certainly they remain in the urine until that urine is cleared or voided. So if a sample is collected early enough, they will be present in the urine, often in much higher concentrations than what they are in a serum or blood specimen. The reason why the alpha and beta aminitin are unlikely to be detected in a postmortem specimen is because the specimens were collected on the 8th of August 2023, which is almost a week after the antemortem specimens were collected in the hospital. So it's unlikely that these particular toxins will be detected a week later in a postmortem specimen. So there you go. It's sort of like very time crucial. A lot of these toxins just don't hang around the body for very long. And even if someone dies from it, it may not come up in the blood test very easily, and they may need to have some sort of histology to be able to, see it. So, like he said, if it's taken within 15 hours of ingestion, they can pick it up in the blood. They can pick it up in the urine for much longer, and in the liver, but in some other parts of the body gets flushed out so quickly that it's not detectable after about a day to 30 hours. So as you can say, some of these post-mortem results were taken almost a week later even after death, post mortem, but they were undetectable. So, all right. Hold on. I have to cough. Hold on. All right. Let's continue. I want to go further down here. So that was for Don Patterson, right? So a lot of those tests were for Don, and they say in table 2, this one is labeled toxicology results for Gail Patterson, and they say in relation to postmortem samples, did you receive a postmortem sample similar to those that you received in relation to Donald or Don? And he says yes, we did. And they ask, what antemortem samples did you receive in relation to Gail Patterson? He says, again, we received in excess of 50 antemortem samples from Gail Patterson from Dandenong Hospital and the Austin Hospital. And the ones that we analyzed are listed in detail on the page of the toxicology report. They include blood and serum. But they ask, you say blood and serum, but no urine? And he says, there was no urine collected. They may have been, but it may have been much later on. He said you need to check the list of antemortem specimens. But because they don't feature in the first few, it is unlikely that urine was collected or collected at a time that is not suitable for analysis. And they ask him here, they have a number of results in this particular table. And they say the alpha amanitin and the beta amanitin, blood C, serum F, blood B, hair, and section of liver. And they ask, what were the results for all these tests? And he says, there was no alpha or beta amanitin detected above the threshold in any of those specimens. So they move on to table 3, and they say this is a toxicology result for Heather Wilkinson. And they said, did you receive a number of postmortem samples? He said, yes. And they said, similar to those you received for Donald and Gail? He says, yes, that is correct. And they ask him about these antemortem samples. And they say, we received a urine sample for Heather Wilkinson, which we didn't have for Gail Patterson. It was post-mortem urine sample. They saying they didn't have a post-mortem urine specimen for Donald Patterson either. And they said, yeah, they just didn't have it. And they say, what about the antemortem specimens in relation to Heather Wilkinson? What did you receive? He said, again, we received a number of specimens. And he said, we've listed the 5 most earliest ones on the front page of the toxicology report related to blood and urine, blood and serum. They say, and no urine. And he says, no urine on that one. And they say, so turning to table 3, they say ethanol standard not detected. And he says, yes, there was no ethanol detected in the antemortem sample. And they ask alpha amanitin and beta amanitin tests, which followed on the blood C, serum F, blood B, urine, hair, and section of liver. Was there anything detected in those samples? He says, no, there was no alpha or beta amanitin detected above the threshold. And they said, now on to toxicology results for Ian Wilkinson. They said, they asked him, you didn't receive any post-mortem results, post-mortem samples in relation to Ian Wilkinson. And they said, no, we did not. Well, probably because he's alive. And they say, what antemortem samples did you receive? They said, we received a number of specimens for Ian Wilkinson from the Dandenong Hospital and the Austin Hospital, in excess of 50. And he says, predominant. Predominantly, we received samples collected on the 30th of the 7th, so the 30th of July, at around 2:10 in the afternoon. Blood sample, serum sample, and a urine sample was collected on the 1st of August at 2 p.m. And they said here, in relation to the serum F sample, what can you say about the result there? He said, in the serum, the lab has confirmed the presence of beta aminitin. And he says alpha aminitin was not detected above the threshold, but there certainly is beta aminitin that has been reported as a positive confirmation and detection. And they said, and that particular sample of serum F that was collected on the 30th of July at 2:10 at Dandenong Hospital, and they said 2:10 in the afternoon. They say, what about the antemortem urine? And he said, what was the result for that sample? He says the antemortem urine shows a positive detection for alpha aminitin, but not beta aminitin above that threshold. And they say, so it's a positive for alpha aminitin, but not positive for beta aminitin above the threshold that's mentioned in the report. They say, and that antemortem urine was collected on the 1st of August at 2 o'clock at Dandenong Hospital. And he says, yes. They ask, blood C result shows no detection above threshold. He says, yes. And they say, and then the analytes that follow, um, he just says that there's drugs in the system of these people, all four of them, that are within therapeutic parameters, things like tramadol and some of the other drugs that they were given for like nausea and things like that. And he says they're just within therapeutic limits. So they're not anything that would be dangerous or hurt them or something like that. What happened? What are you guys doing? Hey, Penguin, how are you, my friend? What did you guys do to? I don't know what you guys did, but sure. I don't know. I'm reading. Oh, we should put up the banner. Where's my banner? Oh, here. Yeah, there you guys go. There we go. All right. All right. Then they say, turning to table 5 labeled toxicological results for Erin, toxicology results for Erin Patterson. They said, what type of samples did you receive in relation to Erin Patterson? They say for Erin Patterson, we received 9 antemortems in total from Monash Medical Center. The two earliest ones are listed on the report. They are a blood and serum sample collected on the 31st of July at 3:57 p.m. in the afternoon. And they just say is that there's no ethanol detected in the system. They said that is correct. That is not detected. And they say alpha aminitin and beta aminitin were either of those collected in either the blood or serum F sample for Erin Patterson. No, they were not detected in those samples. But they ask, but there was some ondansetron detected, and he says yes, which is a drug that is commonly given for nausea in hospitals. Ondansetron, and that's at therapeutic concentration. There's no other drugs detected. And they say here there's two other tables. These are both for Heather, not Heather. These are both for Erin Patterson's children. And all I'm going to say about that is that there was no alpha or beta aminitin detected in either of the children's tests, either anti-mortem. And that is all I'm going to read out about the children because it's so easy to screw up and say things you shouldn't say. So that's your explanation about Erin's children. that they tested them as well. There was no alpha or beta aminidin detected in their systems like their mum. Their mum, no detection either. Yeah, I swear like a sailor. That's right. That's right. Although I've been editing it out. If I swear, I go back and edit it out and then repost the video. So, because we've got too much attention right now. When we go back to the way we used to be, like it's just us again, I'll start leaving the swear words in again. I'll start doing that again. But right now we can't have the swear words. All right. So that was the sort of breakdown of the forensic data that they spoke about today in those tables. And I know it's a little hard to grasp, but it just showed that depending on timing was depending on if they caught alpha aminidin or beta aminidin in the systems of at least the three people who died and one person, Ian Wilkinson, who survived. But even in Ian Wilkinson, who survived, they were able to detect alpha aminidin in his system. But then when you look at the results from Erin and her children, nothing. They were able to detect nothing in either three of them. What does that mean? I don't know. I'm not sure. But I'll take you down here. They talk about some further testing, but this is different. This is not this is not what you would consider the same as what we're talking about. What we're talking about before is like human testing, testing on people, their blood, their serum, their urine, their liver. This is not. This is testing of items. Items. Answers you're a star now, Ping. I don't think I am. People still haven't stopped me in the road. When that happens, then I'm famous. But until then, not so famous. Anne says, "What percent of your viewers are American?" Our sort of breakdown is sort of like 50% of the viewers are American, about 30% are Australian, and then about maybe about 20% are from other places, like 20 to 30% are from sort of other places, the UK. Oi, Rory, come on. Bloody cats, man. She's just a pain in the ass. Oi, oi, come here. What are you doing? Come here. Hi. This is the big fluffy. Here, this is the one that just knocked the camera out. You can say hi to everyone. Hey, naughty girl, what are you doing? Being annoying to everyone, huh? Hey, are you the one who keeps knocking the camera out? Look at this giant tail. Look at this. She's got a giant tail. Hi, girl. What are you doing? You being very naughty? Yeah, I know, I know. Hey, Dad's got a show to do on Erin Patterson. Are you Erin Patterson? I don't think you are. I don't think you are Erin Patterson, are you? I think you just want your dinner, don't you? You're like, Dad, feed me. Come on. You should feed me. What are you doing, huh? What are you doing? Yeah, she keeps annoying Dad. What are you up to? Huh? What's up? Hi, Perry girl. Hey? We've got a show to do. We've got to talk about these testing forensic samples of items, okay? I'll feed you after. Or Mum can feed you. All right, all right. Smoochy cat. All right, we got to go. Come on. Come on. Gotta... Where are you going? Hi, 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 hi. Hi, hi, hi. Come on. Do you want to jump down? All right, all right. You just knock everything off, though. Come on. All right, come on. Let's go. All right, all right, all right. Come here. All right. Hey, come on. Yeah, she's very affectionate. She's just crazy, aren't you? All right, I know. I'll feed you after. Yeah, she's big fluffy cat. All right, let's talk about these. Robert says, 10, is that pound? Thank you, I appreciate it. Robert says, we effing love your cats. Thank you. And for the swear word, I appreciate it. Yeah, she doesn't come up very often, this one. You often see the orange one, which is the male cat, but she's the girl. She's the big fluffy girl. Now she's sleeping on my feet. Okay. I think she wants mum to feed her. All right, let's go back to the testing. And they say they spoke about human biological samples that were tested. They're saying they're asked, were you asked to analyze a number of exhibit specimens that are not human biological samples but were something else? He says, yes, we were. They said, did that include an exhibit referenced to as a portion of food? And he says, yes. Yes, they did. They get fed a little bit later than now, so they're doing okay. And they've had when I came home, I gave them lots of food already, so they get fed. I promise. They get way too much food. Hey Zen. Zen says, I'm from Adelaide and I follow a lot of trials in the US. It's a pity we don't televise trials in Australia. It's just sort of that's sort of the rules down here. And they say here, did that include an exhibit reference to as a portion of food? They said yes. They said, was it a white jug with brown liquid? He says, yes, it was. They asked, a fruit platter? He says, yes, we received that. They said, vegetable matter or debris? And he says, yes. And they say, what date did you receive those items? He said they were received on the 29th of August, 2023 at 11:30 in the morning. They said, what was your task to analyze these samples to see if amatoxins were present, similar to what you did in relation to the biological assessments? He says, yes, sometimes we receive exhibits as part of investigations that can also provide some information as to whether these substances were present in those exhibits. They said, did you do that in relation to the fruit platter? And they said, I assume the answer is no. He says, no, I'm just trying to make sure uh, there are only certain laboratories that have certain, he's basically saying certain laboratories have limitations in terms of being able to test all sorts of items. And he says, typically, exhibit analysis is not conducted by our institute. It is normally undertaken by our forensic colleagues out at McLeod. They say they have specialist techniques to recover drugs from a whole range of exhibits, but on occasion we do undertake analysis for some exhibits received as part of coronial investigations. And they said, so you conducted that analysis in relation to the portions of food, the white jug with brown liquid, and the vegetable matter or debris. He says, yes, and a summary of those were presented in the toxicology report for Erin Patterson. They said, I'm going to start with the portions of food. And they said, yeah, they said basically, here, they said the results of the analysis of the portions of food, the jury heard evidence in this case from a mycologist called Camille Truong. She was yesterday. If you want to hear what Camille had to say, watch yesterday's episode about it. All right. And they say Camille examined little pieces of mushrooms from this same portion of food under a microscope and did not find any death cap mushrooms. Can you explain to the jury the difference between the microscopic exam and what you did here? And they say, he says, microscopic exam is different to what we undertake. We undertake an analysis at much lower levels than what the naked eye can actually detect or identify. We don't rely on visual detection of compounds. We rely on sensitive instruments to be able to detect very low quantities that are not visible. So I'm not saying that they weren't visible in the sample that that was analyzed, but they'd be difficult in the small amounts, particularly if they'd been put into food, to identify as death cap mushrooms. So the only real way of identifying poisons that have been put in food or other preparations is analytically, and that's usually done by laboratories such as ours. And Miss Lenthal is still asking the questions here. She says, so when you conduct that, is that a molecular examination that you're conducting at a molecular level? And he says, it is at an analytical level, that's right. So if death cap mushrooms had been turned into a liquid or finely minced or turned into a powder, would your examination be able to detect the amatoxins? He says, yes, that's part of the analysis that we undertake using the techniques that I've described earlier today. Miss Lenthal continues and says, in relation to the portions of food, how was that item packaged when the lab received it? And he says, it was received in a blue plastic bag, as described on the toxicology report. They contained two Ziploc bags and they were both labeled with Erin Patterson's name from Monash Health. And there were some other identifiers on the Ziploc bags. And then we separated the contents of those bags and analyzed the subsamples from these bags. Now, some evidence was shown to the jury. I can't show you these because they don't give them to us, but it showed these samples on two trays, and we actually got to see the leftover beef Wellington in greater detail than we had ever seen, and we got to see like little bits that had been cut off or half eaten, and there was two different samples that we could see on the photos that were given to the jury. So I hope at a later time I'll be able to show it to you when we get those exhibits. But it sort of looked like, yeah, two little trays with the bags, and then you could see the little bits of portions that were left of these beef Wellingtons. Hey, Kat, good to see you. Thanks for being here. All right. So they show these exhibits to the jury, and they also showed us. So in the process that we're about to talking about here, they talk about how they break down these samples into three parts, and then they put them into a like little test canisters, right? So they separate it into its elements: pastry, meat, and then the mushroom dooley or dooley or whatever however you pronounce it, dooley. So it's like that mushroom paste that surrounds the meat of the beef Wellington. So they separated it. It was like a little bit of pastry, a little bit of mushroom dooley or whatever you call it, and then the meat. So they were testing three different samples here, and we could see them. They showed us the little testing tubes with the different samples in it, and they showed us before and then after they added the liquid that they add to it to be able to conduct the test. So that they were the photos that we were showed today. So we got to see the beef Wellington that as it came out of the bag as a sample, as it got broken down and then put into the little testing tubes, and then after they did the test. And so they were the photos we were showing. I hope eventually I'll be able to show these to you. All right. So I'm not going to run through all the descriptions of it, but I will take it here. Okay. Okay, so what did you do with these samples that came in the two trays? They say these samples, they were sub-sampled. So there was a small amount from each of these pastries that were removed. There was a small amount of solvent or chemical that was added to these pastries, meat samples, and mushroom paste to try and remove the alpha or beta amanitin, if present in those samples, is detected. And they say, when you took these samples, were some of them pastry samples? He says, yes, some of them were what we would call or describe as pastry or mushroom paste or meat. And they said, so three types of sample. He said, essentially, yes. And there was the brown liquid as well, which is from the other exhibit. There was some vegetable matter or debris from the other exhibit as well. And they say, I'll get down to the test results here, because they're just describing the little test tubes and the numbers on it, which it's no good me telling you about it because you can't see it. So just imagine that they broke it down into little like test tubes with a lid on it. And you see when they break it down into meat, mushroom, and then pastry, and then they add the solvent or the liquid to it. And then they took the photos again to show you what it looks like with the liquid in it. And that's basically what it looks like. All right. Okay. And they say here, I'll take you back to the table of results for these samples. In particular, can I take you to table 8, which is marked toxicology results for exhibit samples leftovers from bin? And they say for the first 5 sets of the results for amanitin and beta amanitin, that is Z8, the pastry sample, Z9, the pastry sample, Z10, mushroom paste, Z11, mushroom paste, and Z12, mushroom paste. What was the result of your analysis of those samples? He says there was no alpha and beta amanitin that we could confidently detect in those samples. And they said, what do you mean by confidently detect? He says, above the threshold that meets the criteria for reporting. They ask about exhibit Z13 mushroom paste. They said, what was the result of your analysis there? He says, in that exhibit, there was some beta amanitin that was confirmed and reported as positive. And also in Z16, which is the meat sample, again, beta amanitin was also detected as positive in that sample. They ask him about the brown liquid in the white jug, and they say, "What were the results of that?" He says, "We couldn't detect any alpha or beta amanitin in that brown liquid." They say here they're looking at another photo, and they're saying it was some vegetable matter or debris that was found in the dehydrator and then provided to the lab. And they ask about what the results of those tests were, and he says a similar process was used to test whether alpha and beta amanitin were positive in those small amounts of material that we received. And they say, they're turning to another table, and it says toxicology results for exhibit samples from dehydrator. And they're saying it's the top 3 specimens. And he says they're labeled all the same vegetable matter or debris, Z1, Z2, and Z3. And they say, what was the result of your analysis? He says there was no alpha amanitin or beta aminitins detected in those first 3 exhibits. And then they say, and for Z4, Z5, Z6, and Z7, which are vegetable matter or debris, he says they're all positive for alpha amanitin and beta amanitin, and they're all confirmed as positive. So there you go. Some of the debris found in the dehydrator was negative for alpha amanitin and beta amanitin, but then another bunch of samples that they took from another part of the dehydrator were confirmed as positive results for beta amanitin and alpha amanitin. So in that dehydrator, it sounds like they found evidence of death cap mushrooms. Same as in the food, they found beta amanitin results from the mushroom dooley and in the meat. but no alpha. But they did see beta aminidin within the food samples. And then they found it within the dehydrator as well. So there you go. There you go. Let me just see if there's anything else on this testing that I think that you guys would find something that we should talk about. No, that's it for today. That's it. I'm pretty sure that's basically it for his evidence for today. I expect that tomorrow that examination and then cross examination will continue. So he took up quite a lot of time today. Yeah. So we finally heard from. We're sort of getting to that stage of the trial where we're starting to hear these type of results and less sort of doctor evidence. We're starting to hear more like forensic evidence. So there we go. First time I've sort of seen that within the trial. So I hope you all got a lot of information from that. You may have to read it or listen to it about 5 times because there's a lot of Z1 and Z2 and aminidin and this and a result and a table. It's a little hard to explain without the table. I hope, like I said at the end, we'll be able to request these exhibits and then I can show you what we saw. It just looks like a Word document with these different tables in it, like you would see from any lab, and it just has different titles in the top and then the test results for each item. That's basically what we saw, but there was about 7 of them. And I read out a few of the ones there that you guys I thought would be most appropriate to report to you. So there you go. So it's funny. It's been a short week because we didn't have court on Monday, but it has felt like a really long week at court this week. I don't know why. It just feels super draining this week. Week 1 and week 2 weren't too bad. I flew through them even though I was tired or whatever. But this week has just been brutal for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because we're sort of like in that, trials sort of start like this when you get your opening statements and they sort of dip a little bit as you get about through the halfway mark because there's a lot of like repetitive information and sort of same information but said by someone else that was there. There's a lot of like going over the same things. And now I feel like we're sort of going back this way with some different witnesses and things like that. Give me a sec. I just want to double check. By the way, the people who support this channel, thank you to Gossip, Rumor, and Innuendo. I appreciate it. Thanks for subscribing too. I very much appreciate it. And to Robert, thanks for the £10. I don't think we've ever had a international dollar donation before. Normally just US dollars or Australian dollars. So that's pretty cool. You are our first pound donation. I don't think we've ever had a UK super chat before. So that's awesome. I appreciate it. And I would like to thank, hold on. I'd like to thank the other 25 new subscribers in the last 24 hours. Thank you for subscribing to my channel. This trial has been sort of like a labor of love in a way because it's been all consuming. I get up in the morning, I get ready very early in the morning, I head out to court. We're there from about 10 a.m. till about 4 p.m. every day. And then I come home and I edit out the stuff and then I get the show done. And then now it's about 20 past 9 at night. So I don't get really done until about 9:30 in the evening after I get home. So it's been taking up huge amounts of time to cover this trial. So I hope everyone is enjoying it and it's giving you a better insight than what you get from, say, media articles or something like that. You actually get the real, stuff that is said, the actual proper information, not pared down or like one sentence or one paragraph. You sort of get the real information. that's what I wanted to do. Like you see out of American trials, the only difference we have here is we have some reporting restrictions that Americans don't have that we do have. So sometimes there's things that we can't report, or there's something that under a certain act or a certain law that means we can't repeat it. It's not because we don't want to tell you, it's because it's illegal to voice certain things. Even though we hear it at trial or we watch it, it's just under certain laws and acts in Australia. It just means you can't broadcast it. Broadcast, print, or media is the way they describe it in the law. So, Warner Steel says you're great at this. I don't know about great. I'll take somewhat good. I'll take somewhat good. That's what I'll do. Marjorie says, thank you. Really enjoying your coverage. I hope you are. I miss everyone because we don't have the comments on right now. So I miss everyone interacting and leaving different things. And I reckon when I turn the comments on, there's going to be a lot of people like, your channel's shit and your content's crap. I have a feeling that's what's gonna happen when we turn on the comments. You've given Monopoly money? What do you mean? To who? By the way, thank you to these two. I appreciate it. Hold on. I don't know what he's talking about. Hold on. I don't know what that means. Hold on, guys. Okay. Okay. I'd like to thank all the nice people that help the channel with donations and things like that. There's links in the chat and under the video. all that money goes to help funding the trips out to the courthouse and that every day. It's not exactly a cheap enterprise. So I appreciate those people that are able to do that. We don't sit here all night and ask for that type of thing. My opinion on it is your content will speak for itself and people will want to do that type of thing if they want to. I'm not the type of person that's going to sit here with like a counter and be like, hey, look at this. And when we didn't make enough tonight, I think that's a horrible way of doing YouTube. And I am of the opinion that content trumps all, that your quality of your content will be the deciding factor on subscriptions, donations, ad revenue, all that type of thing. And that's what you should put your effort into. So that's my mental state on that sort of thing, but I appreciate it. I Hate Morning says, thank you, Ping. I know it's long hours and appreciate the hard work. Had to be part of the replay crew yesterday. That's okay. I know it's on at a weird time, but I want to get it out as soon as I can. I don't really want to wait. Well, I don't have time the next morning or day because I'm gone. I'm back at court in the morning. So we have to do it when we got a chance to do it. Renee says you might get a larger audience. I know that our view rate has gone up significantly. We're averaging like 400 views a day on each live stream, but that's gone up, and our subscribers have gone up too. So, and our watch hours, I think we're at 6,000 watch hours for just this month, and we're almost at 20,000 views on the channel this month. 20,000 views. So that's pretty cool. I like it. But yes, thank you to all of you. I appreciate it. I want to thank my OG people, the people who were here when I started the channel and funded me to get to this point, because they're the ones who basically got us here in the first place. And I have to say thank you to all those people, because they stuck with me when the channel was boring until we got to do fun things like go to trial. Texas says, I watched a replay yesterday. Today I made it. I'm glad you made it. I'm glad you made it, buddy. Hold on. Let me sit up. My back is killing me. The chairs at court suck. The chairs at court are really like stiff. Hold on. All right, that's better. Julie says it is, and YouTube tends to snowball. I hope so. I'm waiting for my snowball, and then we can have like I don't know, 100,000 subscribers. That'd be good. Then I could go to trials every day. That'd be great. Penguin says I'm OG. Your channel was never boring. Yeah, Penguin's like one of our first subscribers ever. Probably in the first 5 people that ever subscribed to this channel. Back when we I want to do something after the trial. I want to go find that very first video we did on Erin Patterson. Now we're at 650 live streams on this channel. 650. That's how many live shows I've done in 2 years. 650 sounds crazy to me. But I want to go back and find that very earliest 5 or 10 videos I ever did on this channel, and I want to find that one where we first reported on this particular case, and I want to see what the difference is between the presentation now and how I do the shows and what it was like back then. Maybe we'll do that after the trial, and I'll show you what it was like when I first started live streaming on this channel. I don't know if I'll be embarrassed or impressed. I'm not sure. Woman of Steel said I could never eat that much food. I don't work hard enough anymore. I have been pounding down food like it's going out of fashion. I don't understand. I it's weird. It's like going to trial every day makes you like super hungry. Like I normally do my shows and do live streams every day, but going to trial, it just zaps your calories and your blood sugar and stuff. It's weird. It's maybe there's something in the courthouse. Maybe they're zapping us with a laser or something. I don't know. Let's see. Stress will make you hungry. I can tell you my stress has been through the roof for the last 3 weeks. It's not an easy trial to cover. There's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of different laws and things going on with the trial and stuff that's out of the normal. And there's just a lot of things you always have to remember when you're trying to do this. And it makes it hard when you're doing a live stream because it's not like you can, when you type an article, you can kind of check it and be like, oh crap, I shouldn't have wrote that. And you can delete it and then you can publish your article, right? But with a live show, it's live. I don't have that chance to delete anything, so I have to be very super careful with what I say. So, I don't know. I don't know. We don't get to see her that often. Renee said ping the engagement on TikTok is very high, so I recommend using it as a live streaming platform too. I don't know. I don't think I've ever used TikTok before, but I'll try. Can you live stream on TikTok? I don't think I've ever used it. I don't think I even have an account. I'm you know when you're getting old is when you're like, what are those kids using? What's that newfangled app? How do they use it? I don't know how to use it. I don't even have an account. That's how you know you're getting old. Woman of Steel says food is fuel like gas or petrol in your car. It's true. I've been pounding down food. It's insane. Betty C says never boring. Well, thank you. Yuta says, or use shorts. Well, we could do that for the trial. We could like clip some things that are interesting from the long live show that we do like right now, and sort of pick out some more of the the sort of points that are very impactful. Is the word I would use. Got to be careful with wording. There's one word we're not supposed to use, and it's one of my favorite words on live streaming, and we're not allowed to use it. And it's very hard for me not to use that word all the time. All right, that's it. So if you want to know what's going on with the trial, tomorrow's a half day, and I expect that this toxicology evidence will continue. I suspect that's what we're going to hear more of during the day tomorrow. But court only runs until 1 p.m. 1 p.m.? Yeah, 1 p.m. tomorrow, so lunchtime. So we normally get our lunch around 1 p.m. Sometimes it's 10 to 1, sometimes it's 10 past 1, sometimes it's 5 past 1. There's sort of like no set time, but whenever we get our lunch break tomorrow, that's the end of the court week for this week. That'll be it. It'll be over. Half day tomorrow. Probably means that there'll be a very early show tomorrow. If I can do it, it'll be on at midnight. So that'll be good. A lot of people will be able to stop by and say hello. And I think that's it. What I wanted to bring you today. There was a little bit from a lady who works for a government department called DFFH, and DFFH is Department of Families. It used to be called DOCS, DOCS, but they call it DFHH or DFFH. It's Department of Families and Children, and basically like child investigation. If you're in the US, you would call it DCF or something like that. So that's, we heard a little bit from her, but unfortunately, it's some of it's very centric on the children, and it's sort of their names and stuff pop up like every second question, and I just want to leave the kids alone. I don't want to. Hold on, guys. Rory. Sorry. The fluffy cat is very naughty. Come here. Hey. Hey, come here. Rory, come here. Why are you being so naughty, huh? Come here. Yeah. Do you want to say hello to everyone? Do you want to tell them why you're jumping up on the cupboards? Hey? Do you want to tell them? With that giant tail? Look at this tail. It's longer than she is. What are you doing, huh? What are you doing? What's wrong? Why are you purring? Hey? What are you doing? I could open up a cat padding channel. Look. Rory, do you want to star on a cat padding channel? You like that idea, girl? Hey, why are you purring so much? Why are you purring? Oh, Rory. Hey, what are you doing? We call her the squirrel because she looks like a squirrel, or we call her the raccoon because she looks like a raccoon. All right, we're gonna get out of here. Rory wants me to feed her, I think. Rory, do you want me to feed you? Yeah. She's like, please feed me, Dad. Please feed me. I'm just a hungry cat. All right, I better feed her before she eats me. What are you going to do? Hey, stop knocking the microphone around. Hey? All right. I better feed this one, otherwise she's going to go ballistic, aren't you? Aren't you? All right. What are you doing? You keep knocking the microphone away. Where are you taking it? I don't think you know. All right. All right, we better get out of here before the cat eats me. What are you doing? Rory, hey. Okay, I love you all. Rory wants me to go. I'll see you tomorrow for half day of court, and that'll be it for the week. And then we'll be back on Monday. Back on Monday for week 4. Week 4, day 14. Yeah, I know it sounds weird, day 14, and we're saying like week 4, but sort of the way it worked. All right, come on, get down, girl. Hey, I'll finish the show, then come and help you. All right, hold on. Where are you going? No. I was gonna put you down. Hold on, come here, go. Oh. All right. I love you all. Have a great night out there. Enjoy the replay, crew. If you're not, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. That sort of was our aim with the trial, is to try to get that subscription number up. That's why we've been producing this content every day and going to trial. It's really to try and jack that number up a lot more. Hopefully it'll happen. We'll see. Either way, I'll keep producing the content for you. I love you all. I'll see you out. I'll see you tomorrow. That's it. We're almost done for the week. And I'll be very happy tomorrow, like champagne, TGIF, all those things. Until then, good night, everyone. We're out of here. Good night. Bye.